So it is that time again. It is time to get us prepped for our next regional. And our locals is having a little Thursday testing session just to get us all prepped. And this is a recap of that testing session. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Please drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. So round one, I'm playing against Hero, a matchup that I've played like 1,000 times against Gwen, the person who normally plays this list. And so she starts her turn by going Ferris effect, discard, effect to place. And I know increase is like the biggest choke point. So I'm like, okay, let's Veiler the increase. So she ends up going Fusion Destiny, and I Ash. She has Called By, which, God, I hate that card. She ends up summoning DPE and going Malicious Effect to summon another Malicious from deck, which gets Cross Crusader, and then Cross Crusader can summon back the Malicious. Or actually, she goes into Denier. She revives the Denier. She thinks really hard on the add-off Cross Crusader, but eventually adds and summons Vion. Vion's effect will dump the Shadow Mist, and then Shadow Mist will add Stratos. Vion is going to use its effect to add a Polymerization from deck to hand by banishing a hero, and she has a lot of play options available to her now. What she actually ends up doing is just setting one and passing, so she's set up for next turn. I activate Sunny Snitch to start me off, and I know that I have to deal with a DPE. So she reads the text on Sunny Snitch, and she decides to pop the Sunny Snitch with DPE so it will not resolve. I draw 2 cards, and I draw Imperm Ash, which doesn't really do me any good. I go normal Kill Frost, and I special Carrot because I just need a body to turn into a gigantic. Droplet actually really hurts because it's a droplet instead of an imperm, so now I can't even beat over the Cross Crusader and make a Zeus. So because of that, I'm just like, okay, well, I can't really do anything here. So I just like to scoop it up and go to game 2. Game 2, of course, I had the opportunity to go first, which I definitely take advantage of. I draw for my starting 5, and I see Droplet, and I kept Droplet in even though it's really bad against Darklaw because I just wanted to be able to avoid any damage step shenanigans. I activate Sunny Snitch, which grabs Leela. I go normal Leela effect, and summon out a Kill Frost. This turn, Gwen really just lets me play because she doesn't really have any hand interruptions, and I have full combo. I special Blue adds Jet. Does it add Jet? It adds, I think, really hard because I'm like, I kind of want to play around Nib. I add Red and just play it safe that way. So then what I do is I activate Starter. Starter gets me Jet, and Jet adds a copy of Double Cross, so that way I can suck something up so it can't be used as material or to beat over my monsters. So then from there, I just go ahead and overlay the Jet and the blue into a gigantic and make Kill off of the Live Twins. And then I just revive the Kill in hope to draw something that's non-engine that I sided in. I get impermed on the gigantic activation, which is actually kind of really frustrating because if Gwen has a blowout, then I lose because I don't have Carrot. So it's really frustrating. So she goes Ferris effect, and I'm just like, oh, discards, and I'm like, wow, this is potentially really bad. I do have Kill Frost, so I am going to have the opportunity to draw a card, but that's, may not necessarily help me in the immediate sense. She goes Ferris, effect to place increase, goes Malicious effect. I really would have liked to double cross here, but she does not give me the opportunity to, which she has turn player priority, so that's what it is. But she summons out another Malicious from deck, and she reads the Leela, or the Kiss-a-Kill again, excuse me, and I go affect the chain. I decide to pop the Ferris here, because that way the Ferris doesn't, or the Malicious doesn't have a chance to trigger. She chains the increase, and I just go effect of red to pop the increase, and from there she normal Stratos effect to add, and she resolves the add, but once she attempts to resolve the add, she just scoops because she can't break the board. So I move it on to game 3. Game 3, I open one Ash, and she normal Stratos. I let it resolve because I don't know if I really want to Ash a Stratos, because there's a lot of higher opportunity places to Ash. She has talents, so she gets really punished by that. Because I don't Ash, so she really loses out on the talents. I activate Desires after she sets 3, and I'm terrified, so I'm like, I need to dig for something. And I drew Duster off of Desires, so I activate Duster, and she flips D-Barrier, and just immediately scoops it up, because that was all her interaction. So it is what it is. I had Ash, I showed her my hand, and I had Ash Ogre, but I just wanted to not play into talents. So for whatever reason, my camera decides not to record, even though I've pressed record and I've made sure that the film is running. So we do not have game 1. I did, in fact, get game 1. I went full combo and won the die roll. But weirdly enough, Jimmy passes to me with nothing on field. I go normal Kiss-a-Kill, a special Leela from deck. This should have been my first clue that he had like a bunch of hand traps. I will go special blue effect, because I'm like, okay, maybe I can OTK here. So I add red, because that way I can insulate myself from hand traps. So I go special jet, add Gamma Burst, special red, and he goes nib, and then I'm just like, okay, red negate, and then he chains Veiler, of course.
Let's go. It's the infamous 2-card combo.
This is a pretty decently sized token, but he's able to beat over it pretty easily. But while I don't actually have a board, I do have follow-up in the Sunny Snitch, and I also have a couple of hand traps. So while I can't assemble my own board, Jimmy is kind of struggling to put together his. I set an Imperm, and I have an Ash in hand, so we pass here. Unfortunately, unable to make our own board. But what Jimmy does here is he goes activate Bonfire. I Ash the Bonfire. He normals Ash in order to make Hita, in order to revive my Ash. Now, I know that he's going to go for the Hita line, because he clearly, if he's normaling Ash, he clearly doesn't have any other meaningful extenders. So what we're going to do is let him go for Hita, which he does end up doing after contemplating for a bit. First he goes to battle phase and just clears the token. Then he goes Hita, and then Hita effect, and we immediately Imperm, because we do not want him getting Ash and making Princess. So from there, we draw for turn. We then go normal Leela, and he's like, yeah, you got it. All right, on to round 3. So this match is up against Rescue Ace against Trey. And we unfortunately lose the die roll, and that's kind of rough for us. He starts with Wanted to add Diabellstar, and from here I'm like, okay, I have one hand trap, so this Imperm is going to have to go kind of hard. We go into main phase, and Trey activates Diabellstar and discards for cost. Goes effective Diabell Star, and I contemplate really hard. He pitches Hydrant. I let the Diabell Star resolve, which I probably shouldn't have done. He sets Subdual off of Diabell Star, and from here he goes activate Preventer to special summon by banishing the Hydrant, so that way he can revive it. From here he activates Emergency. He's going to summon out a Turbulence from deck and tribute it off the Preventer. Here is where I misplay like a dodo brain. Now I think to myself, okay, well, this Hydrant is going to have protection, so what I want to do is imperm the Turbulence. What I forgot is that Hydrant gives itself protection, not other Rescue Ace monsters, so I needlessly impermed, and as a result, he can just go Hydrant effect, add another Turbulence. So I done goofed. Literally played myself. TBH, I probably should have shame scooped here, but it is what it is. So I now have no more hand traps in hand, and Trey just goes, offers the cut, and he thinks a little bit, and here I am giving the camera a heads up because of this pro gamer play I just made. And he links into SP and then goes activate Turbulence to summon and banishes the other Turbulence and the Emergency, and then goes Turb effect to summon. Now, in theory, I did misplay, of course, but even if I imperm here, because he has SP, what happens is he just imperms. I just imperm and he chains SP. So it doesn't really do a whole lot unless I preemptively chain imperm to the summon, which is maybe what I should have done, because that literally means he can't Turbulence this turn because he's already Emergency. Yeah, that's absolutely what I should have done. That is my big misplay here. It is what it is, though. So Trey sets 4, and we're just over here chilling. He's got an SP on the board and set 5, and I'm in kind of a pickle because I don't really think I can play. He goes activate Alert to revive and has Preventer on the board now too, so I have to deal with 4 set and a Book of Moon and an SP. He passes over to me, and I think really hard. I draw an Ash for turn. That was great. I just show him it because I know I'm cooked. There's no real reason to try to play through this board. I go activate Sunny Snitch. He chains the Sinful Spoils trap. I contemplate for a moment, and then I just decide to Ash it because this Ash is just dead in my hand, so I might as well use it for something. So I go add off of Sunny Snitch. We'll resolve the Sunny Snitch effect. We pick up a copy of Leela. Not that it's going to really do me any good here. From here, I activate Desires in an attempt to dig for something. I don't know. I don't really know what gets me out of this. He ashes it, and then I'm like, oh, okay, sick. So then I just have to play with the cards I have. I normal Leela. I declare the effect. Trey contemplates for a minute. He eventually lets it go through, and then I just pick up my deck and summon out a Kiss a Kill. And on res of the Kiss a Kill Frost summon, he goes Preventer to Book. And I'm like, okay, well, I can kind of play through this because I still have sprite names in hand. But unfortunately, the sprite names I have in hand don't really amount to much because all I have is Carrot. Now, Carrot can turn off one of the back row, but if I turn off one of the back row, he also can just chain SP and get rid of the other level 2. So I really can't play. What I'm forced to do here is I have to attempt to go to battle in an attempt to make Downard plus Zeus. So I probably should have summoned Skycav here so I could at least out the SP, but instead I summoned Gigantic for some reason. But I was just trying to see, maybe I can extend, but I just am unaware, clearly, of the 3 back rows sitting back in the backfield. So he activates Extinguish to pop, and I just kind of have to scoop it up there because there's no way I can play through this board now. So we start off game 2. I activate starter in draw phase just to play around Droll, and I summon out blue, and then we go blue into jet, and jet will grab either another starter or a double cross. I believe, well, we'll see here, but I believe I actually grab smashers here. Or maybe I already have smashers. It's either double cross or smashers. I pick up another starter. Actually, yeah, that makes sense because that also gets me access to red. So I can, during his turn, I can go starter again and play through more interaction. So we go gigantic effect, and then we summon from deck. We go into what I assume is a red. Yeah, there's a red, and then we have the starter to go into carrot on his turn. This is our board. It looks pretty unassuming, right? It's just gigantic and red. But then we set 5. And these aren't just 5 bluffs either. These are actually really live cards, as you'll see in a minute. I pass it over to Trey, and in draw phase, I go ahead and flip a copy of Starter, and Starter is going to summon a carrot from the deck, so that way we don't get blown out by evenly or what have you. So we summon out the carrot, and we are sitting on a monster negate and a spell negate. It's really unfortunate because if we want to do anything to negate, we kind of have to tribute off one of our bodies, and we don't have a lot of bodies right now. So that is probably not the best line of defense. So from here, we have Trey activate Wanted, which I messed up because I had anti-spell set, and I could have flipped it and forced him to chain the Wanted preemptively, but I don't really think it matters here, to be honest. So what we do is we let him resolve the Wanted, because I don't really feel like getting rid of a gigantic here. So he goes ahead and adds Witch off of Wanted. There's Jimmy again, inserting a damaged card into the frame. On res, I do what I probably should have done earlier, which is chain anti-spell. Trey thinks for a minute, and in response to the anti-spell, he chains the emergency. And emergency is going to grab him a rescue ace monster from deck. He ends up summoning Impulse, so that way if I activate red or carrot, he can get another rescue ace from deck, which would probably be Turbulence. He ends up sacking the Turbulence for the emergency effect. And he goes Impulse effect to negate one of my monsters, so that way he can kind of sort of play, and he chooses to negate red. I'm like, okay, so this would turn off red, but I think I'm still fine because we have like 3 back row still. So he goes Preventer effect, banishing Turbulence to summon itself out. From this point, I'm like, okay, well, he's starting to assemble bodies on the board, so maybe I should probably respond to something. I let this go for the moment. He goes book the red with Preventer. I contemplate a little bit about it because I don't want this to just force out my red. But what I can do is I can chain a copy of Smashers, so that way I lose my red, but I don't really lose my red. So I'm thinking about chaining Smashers just to get a body off the board. So what I end up doing is I Smashers, I'll banish the red, and I'll banish the Preventer. Because it does not target, it resolves here, and Trey is left with an Impulse on his side of the board, and that's pretty much it for the moment. But Impulse is not long for this world, and he sacks the Impulse off for Witch. He goes Attempts Effect very dramatically, and he grabs a Sinful Spoil from deck. Now, the Sinful Spoil obviously isn't able to be used this turn because of Anti-Spell, so we are just chilling for the moment. Trey thinks a little bit more about his turn and how he can kind of push through the remainder of my board. I'm actually really concerned here because I'm only on 2 bodies, and if he beats over the Gigantic, I don't really have a lot of follow-up unless I top deck a level 2. So I'm actually not in the greatest spot here. Or I would be if I did not have Gamma Burst set in my back row. So in damage step, we go beat over the Witch because of Gamma Burst, and then end phase we go Cosmic Target the back row, and Trey dramatically slams his alert down, and I go Gigantic Effect, and from here he Spooky Dogwoods me, and I'm just like, sure, I'll give you free life because I'm more concerned about advancing the game state. So even though he's going to gain a good bit of life, I really don't want to be down in card advantage. So I'm like, okay, I need a plus while I can, because that set card isn't apparently live. So I'm like, okay, we'll go blue, add Jet. Jet can add another card, and then we can just kind of build our board back up, so that way on his turn we're fine to interrupt all of his plays. We end up picking up a double cross off of Sprite Jet, and because we already have the Gamma Burst engraved, there's no way I can do lethal to him this turn, but we're just chilling. We set a card, we put everything to attack, and then we just go battle phase, punch, and he takes all the damage, and from here we just go into main phase 2, and we just say go. With Trey on top deck mode and only having a few graveyard resources remaining, he just kind of has to scoop it up because there's not much else he can do. So we move into game 3, and I'm siding Duster Cosmic evenly in, and I see 1 Cosmic. He goes Wanted in draw phase, add Diabellstar, pitch Fire Engine for Diabellstar, and then Diabellstar will set a copy of what I can presume is Original Sinful. Yeah, he goes Original Sinful into a Hydrant effect to add, and he thinks about what to add. He gets the Airlifter adds Emergency, he activates Emergency, and then he sacks the Airlifter off for the Impulse. He goes effect to summon Turbulence. Turbulence effect resolves to set 4. So he sets Alert, Emergency, and some more back row. A Reinforce. And so he's got all his back row, which, because of what he set, I'm like, I feel like he might have like card drawn some of the other back row, but it turns out he didn't. He just had other hand traps. So I go Sunny Snitch, add Leela. Then I go normal Leela after thinking a minute, because I'm like, okay, I've got 1 Cosmic, so I actually have to do like a blind Cosmic. I hit Alert, which is not the right card, so we go Leela effect into Kiss Kill Frost. I'm like, okay, I need to get like all these bodies off the board, but I'm also having to deal with a Preventer and an Impulse. So I'm like, okay, we need to be able to go into Downward Zeus, so I go Special Blue effect to add, and he grabs the one that draws 2 and discards 1. I add red off of blue, and he uses the effect, cycles through some cards, and then I just make Sky Cav. We go Sky Cav. He changed the Rhoda spell to get a search, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's gonna insulate him well for next turn. I just go Sky Cav, beat over the Airlifter, down into Downward Zeus. Here we are just talking about the game state. What I think I should have done here, I mess up because you'll see in a second, I should have preemptively Zeused the board, which I end up doing, but he has the chance to book my stuff. So I should have Zeused on my turn. This is back on him. So he activates the field spell, normals the Hydrant, adds the Turbulence, recycles 4 off of the field spell, draws a card, and then just gets to set 4 off Turbulence. So from here, I'm just kind of like, well, I'm cooked. I should have just preemptively used the Zeus, but I didn't, and I think that cost me the game here. I think from here, I'm just like, yeah, there's just not any way I can play, so I just scoop it up. And he takes game 3. So interestingly enough, because of tiebreakers, I ended up getting first because of how the tiebreakers worked out and because I got paired down round 3. But I still had enough points to clinch out first. But it is just a locals, so it's not really that big of a deal. This is just testing for the regional that's coming up, and we all need this testing. So I really appreciate the testing more than anything, no matter how I do. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know this is kind of a longer video than you're used to from me, but I just wanted to showcase my locals and just my rounds and how they went. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. But for now, it's me, it's that DMD, and your boy is out.